Good evening and welcome to Edessa the Dark Crusade. Tonight, we once again find ourselves starting our night, well, not start of the night, middle of the night, at the haven of Sister Madeline. She is, as always, studying, as she does so many nights and so much time. She reads, and this particular night, she is reading a book in Latin that she acquired the last time she was in Odessa.
There's a knock at the door.
Um, Madeline is actually a little concentrated, so it will be like 10 seconds or so, and then the young-ish woman you have seen once that Madeline had come in and do some stuff. She will open the door and just say, "Good evening."
Good evening, madam. Is your mistress in?
Oh, one moment. And she bows, and a little while later, not like 20 seconds, like half a minute, Madeline will just open a door in the back, and she'll just say, well, good evening.
Seneschal. He bows.
Well, that is not my title anymore, but
No.
but thank you. It does remind me of certain, well, I suppose not in this city, but in another way I am Seneca.
He closes the door behind him. He's got a sort of... There's some dirt on his boots. He looks like he's been walking in the woods.
Well, I can not offer you the good company of Joanna this fine evening, but I do believe that the two of us will be able to make do with each other, no?
It's you I wanted to see.
Well, that is good to know.
Unless
Please,
I'm
come in.
interrupting. He steps forward a little bit.
And she shows you into a room. The same room you've been in before.
He looks around.
Not much has changed.
He has kind of I don't know, a slight purposeful look on his face.
Sits down, just gestures to a chair, and just sits down, looks at you. She has a smile on her face. She says, "So, you have come to see me."
Oh, I've had a interesting evening. I just wanted to wind down with some good company. I found myself desiring your presence.
Well, it is good to know that you're strong, might I say very handsome, rugged individual, want to keep me company. How can I refuse?
I hear that there was some disruption at a recent Elysium bat creature.
Oh, it was not an Elysium, but it was an event of two noble families marrying together. It was a wedding, but it was under the purview of well, a local kindred, one of your clan, I believe.
He nods.
I know that he is. It was apparently disrupted by Well, in short, his past, it would seem.
I thought I might enjoy the calm before the storm. No doubt I'll be thrown into the city's politics before long.
Well, once you are in a city that is inevitable at some point.
So what keeps you at candlelight tonight? Were you
There
busy
is,
otherwise?
I always enjoy reading. Quite few people have the ability to read. I was put in a place when I was given to the cloister. I was able to read, and but I was also imprisoned in the worst way. I was thrown out and shown my weakness for being in such a place, and then I persevered through that, and with it, I became stronger, and well, now I fully enjoy and fully take all the knowledge I can get from whatever book. She claps the book in front of her that I can find.
Latin. He
This one, yes.
he walks towards it and puts his hand on the book and flicks it open and reads some of the passage.
Uh, Now I will ask: do you have any dots in occult?
I do,
How
and
many?
one or two, I think. I have to check. The Latin is my native language,
Okay, okay.
and I have the lingua franca as well, so I can speak a couple of languages.
Ooh.
But being as I'm of Roman descent, Latin is my native language.
Indeed, it is.
He's able to read some of it, although he doesn't fully understand. It's a bit complicated for him, but he
Hmm.
does. He does understand the words. It's clear that he knows what the words are.
I mean, like you read a couple of lines, it's clear that it's describing, like you've probably heard of some of it, but it's again, I mean, it's you probably need to read like a couple of chapters of this for it to make sense, really. So, but it's clearly not a book of standard like literature uh, in general. Like this is some weird book.
Heavy reading for an early weeknight.
No, it isn't. Well, depends. Although I must insist, and she just closes the book. If you were to read this book, you would, well, more, if you would have to borrow it, I would have to ask for a considerable boon. There are certain things in here that are closely guarded secrets.
He smiles softly. I'm sure there are things in there that I would not understand. I know how to read and write, which is rare for a slave, but I've had the time to study. However, I'm not an educated man in the traditional sense of education.
But you know how to read, to write,
Mm.
more than any
Yeah,
slave I've ever met. Not only have you been given the blood, but you have persevered through much, I suppose, given all these scars on you, and yet you have intellect. You can see like her eyes are like it's like for a person who's been kindred for some time or canine for some time, it's it's rare that you see like someone who seems taken with someone or someone who seems passionate or staring intently at someone they find interesting. Maybe she's
He
faking it,
smiles.
but she seems to be fairly taken in with you.
He's got kind of a very intense look. He doesn't meet people's eyes very often. When he does, it's a very intensifying gaze, perhaps because of his own personal nature. Um, it's more of an animalistic look than most.
Hmm.
Not in any way threatening, but it's a sort of look that looks not just at you, but sort of into you, like he's trying to peer inside your soul. His lips are curled in a smile. The scars, yes. Many lessons.
I suppose that not all of them have been your adversaries in the ring, but some have been your mistress.
His lips flicker. I've had my position all of my life, and in my position, people of higher status can do as they wish. But I do not seem to scar anymore, no matter how much damage I take.
Partly due to your blood, and partly due to that you perhaps have learned quite a few lessons already. I had to learn mine as well, through much hardship. They were not the same scars as you, but scars the other way.
Mm. My mistress says that a woman wears her scars inside.
I'm looking forward to seeing it more and more.
He looks at her with a sort of slightly curious look. So you return to the city, and what do you do?
Well, I helped Ulrich, who now holds the princedom of the side of the city. I, I could persuade him if you want to visit and see him. He is an old friend.
No.
He was my baron. I will always be my baron.
I've met him briefly. I don't think he cares for not just me in particular, but my kind in general.
Well, he had to climatize to certain lofty positions of power that heartens your exterior, but you also know of the dream, yes, and of the fall of Michael.
He nods. Some troubling rumours about the city, about the Tremere.
Also that, but more in one thing you must know of Ulrich, he is a true believer in the dream, and I do not believe he will ever be the same since Michael died. Do not take any disdain or distance he might have to you or your kind. I would think that it is a way to mask his unconsolable grief to see the dream be dealt such a blow.
He nods, tightening his jaw slightly. Still sort of standing in front of her. Is she sat down or is she still standing
Oh
up?
yeah. She's she will actually at this point she will just. Do you prefer to stand?
It's just that he's crossed the room to come to the book.
Oh, okay. Well,
And he's still sort of standing by it. He's no longer touching it. He's just sort of standing by it next to her.
then actually, Madeline will get up and she will just say, "Well, we can take a walk to one of the other rooms, to the basement, if that is required.
He nods.
However, if we go to the basement, well, I would ask something of you,
He tilts his head. Go ahead.
but it will require some questions first, and require a solemn vow that you keep this between the two of us, of course."
He's definitely curious. Go on, ask your questions.
What do you make of it? What she has done to you? What do you make of whatever punishments or tribulations, trials she put you through? Was it just her right, or was it punishment and something you shun, or was it something that you have found strength from? I wonder.
Hard to say. As a child, I accepted it as part of my life, as being who I was, and tried to avoid any punishment at all costs. As I grew, I wore many scars, not just from battle, but from the I've not always been as controlled as I am now. Many thought that I could not be tamed. I was a heathen, disbeliever, and I brought bad luck onto the houses of the people that I met. I do not find any shame in my station or in my scars.
Madeline just looks at him for a couple of moments, then she puts both of her hands on the side of your face, and she will just almost whisper to you. She's fairly close to your face, but she will just say, "No, you must never be ashamed of it. You must hold it very tightly around in your fists, and you must take pride in it. Understand that all you have been through, all of these things, they are what make you stronger, perhaps even stronger than her, stronger than perhaps even me."
I would like you to understand something, Madeline, he says, looking at her, sort of he takes a step forward so that she doesn't have to extend her reach too much. I am not a victim of Messiah's whim. I am my own part of the structure that we build our lives upon. And in my way, I am freer than most.
I knew you would understand. I do not know which part of the road you follow, but I will not force you, and I will not command you to do anything. But I would say that my road and your outlook on life would have quite a few things in common.
He nods. Any more questions?
Will you be willing to show me what she taught you?
In what sense?
All of what makes you you are all the trials and tribulations you have seen. I do believe that through what I have gone through, I can teach others much. But I do also believe that you can teach me things by showing me what you have been through. You can explain or you can physically do what to me what she had done to you. This would be a way of showing, of course.
I would never mark such perfection.
This perfection has been marked many times. And Madeline will just go over. She'll go over to her table. There's one drawer in it. She picks out like a standard knife, and then she begins. She actually she doesn't open up, but she does take it and proceeds to make a fairly deep incision in her her left arm, and the knife goes fairly deep, and she flinches a little, but not much, as she makes this deep incision down the long of the arm and all the way down, and she will just look at it, and this is even for a kindred. This probably hurts since it is quite deep. She just looks at it. Very many times my skin has been broken,
Mm.
and every time it becomes stronger for it. You do not need to worry about me. I wish to learn as much as I can. Ask people in the city. When I have time, when I walk in the city, who do I talk to? Do I talk to the nobles? No. Do I talk to the soldiers? Perhaps. Maybe. Do I talk to the merchants? No. I spend most time with the beggars of the city, the poorest of the poor, the sickest, those who have indeed endured the much, the worst things that this world has to offer. These are the people that can teach me, and those willing to listen, of course, the most. And I do believe that you, with what you are, can teach me so much. I will
She
not force you, of course. I will.
has she like healed the wound? It's obviously not bleeding
Nope,
because she's a vampire.
nope. She has not healed it.
He walks towards her, um, and he takes her hand, sort of not where the incision is, but sort of just the palm of her hand in his, and he sort of rips off a piece of cloth from his the bottom of his shirt and wraps it all the way up her arm and tightens it at the top, and then just sort of pressing his fingers into her palm pushes her hand back up towards the top of the makeshift bandage and looks at her and says, I can teach you some things. I can teach you that you either bend or you break. I can teach you how to be stronger. If you can teach me how to be wiser.
Well, I do believe that we can help each other out. Very much so.
He smiled.
I must say, quite a beautiful bandage. Not what I would have expected.
Used to it.
No. I must tell you, the thing is, I have met a couple of slaves in my time that I have spoken to at length, and most of them have harbored an almost unconquerable hatred towards their masters. One was very, very willing to show a beautiful woman like me just what he felt he had endured. But to meet a person like you, who does not seem to have this desire, not this hatred, it is intriguing.
It is not only a fool, but a monster who destroys a beautiful thing. And there's so much destruction in this world already. I'm not easy to destroy.
Even though I am, if I understand, you would be able to quite easily. She
Oh yeah.
she just looks at his hands, and she just kind of just looks at one of his hands and just like carefully just rubs one of her like her index fingers along your nails, just very slowly, and just looks at it. And just looks up at you. It is truly a shame. I have not spent too much time in your clan. I hope with you here that this is something I can change.
He seems to be enjoying her presence. Seems quite content, despite the strange circumstance. Perhaps you could gather that he does get to be close to people very often. At least in a non-combative sense.
Madeline will just take one of his hands and will lead him uh, into a room behind it. In here, there are more books. There is also it's not a sofa in that sense, like a Roman sofa, but it is like, there's a couple of cushions, and it's a bit larger for more than one people to sit here. And she will just have him sit down, if he wants to, of course, and they will sit next to each other. And she will just sit down and just, as he sits down, she'll just look at him and just, hmm.
So, why is it you want to show me the basement?
Well, if you do not wish to, what was your phrase? Scars at perfection? I am flattered. Many times, is not? By the way. There would be methods of showing me what she did. Some would call it instruments of torture.
I can show you the cruelest thing she ever did to me, right here in this room. The thing that scarred the most, the thing that tore me into 1,000 pieces, and I thought that no doctor, no amount of blood, no amount of sunder would tear me from the pits of hell.
If it is your wish to show this, very well.
Are you sure?
As long as my home is in a couple of pieces at least that I can collect afterwards, I am sure.
Very well. He nods. He looks at her. He looks her in the eye properly in the eye for the first time. He's looked at her face and glanced at her and caught eye contact in the process of conversation, but he looks her full in the eye for the first time. And then he, rather sort of suddenly, he reaches out with his hand, and puts it at the back of her head and pulls her in and kisses her.
Madeline will, if she's taken aback by this, it does not show. Um, she will very quickly embrace him, and as she's standing there for a good while, at some point she will just pull her head away and she will just whisper, "A cruel, well, the cruelest thing indeed." And she will kiss him again.
He takes a brief pause between the moment, not breaking away entirely. He says, "There's still 6 hours before I must return." And so we have plenty of time
That we
to
do.
show each other the scars.
Quite so. Madeline will just, she actually just, as she begins to, shall we say, pull him, almost pulling him upstairs, she is essentially beginning to undress while she's doing this. And 6 hours is probably not enough time, but we will have to make do. And she will lead him up to a fairly sizable bedroom. It's again with the rest of the Haven, it is somewhat neutral. I mean, there isn't that many personal effects, but the beta is somewhat spacious, and yeah, the two of them will show some scars. I think, yeah, that's probably yeah.
Spend the rest. Spend as long as possible before the sun rises.
Something like that.
And he has
indeed.
to agree together.
And with that, I do believe that this scene will come to an end. Thank you very much, players, for playing, and watchers for watching. Good night.